Hello everyone, welcome to KT Silicon Self-Based Learning Module. In this particular session, we are going to start with the topic of slave error in APB. Now, let us try to understand what I mean by slave error in APB. So before that, let me share my screen. Now, basically, a slave error is signaled by an APB slave when it cannot complete the transaction as expected. So, this could be due to accessing an invalid or unimplemented address or an unsupported operation or internal slave faults. Okay. So, due to these reasons, the slave may flag an error and it may tell the master that it is having an error. Now, so basically, how the slave is going to indicate the error using it is going to use a signal which is known as P slave error. Using this particular signal P slave error, it is going to indicate the master that it has received some particular error. Now, if this signal it is equal to zero, it means the transaction has been successful. But if the signal if it is equal to one, then there is an error in that particular transaction. So using this signal, after master sampled this particular signal, it is going to decide whether the transaction has completed or not yet completed. Now, this particular signal is basically driven by the slave, and it becomes valid when the period is equal to one and the transfer is finished. So, master initiates a transfer by asserting P selected P enable signal and optionally period signal. Now, slave will respond to this particular signal by asserting this period and P slave error. So the slave is not going to provide this P slave error individually. It should provide this P slave error with by binding with the period is equal. So if the slave wants to report any error, then it is going to mark this P slave error to one, as well as it should also provide the period A to equal to one. Okay, then only the master will come to know whether there is an error or not. So the master must check the P slave error to know if the transfer is succeeded or failed. And these are the phases which a particular transaction is going to have. So initially we are going to be in idle phase where your P select will be equal to zero. And once the transfer has started, we are going to a phase which is known as setup phase. Okay. And our P select will be equal to one and P enable will be equal to zero. Now afterwards we are going to a phase which is known as access phase where our P select is equal to one and P enable will be equal to one. And if our period is equal to 0, we will be in our access phase only, but our period will be equal to 1, we are going to setup phase. And if our period is equal to 1 and if there is no transfer is required, we are going into idle phase. So this is how a transfer is going to happen. So that's all about this particular session. Thank you.